examples from my research, and we'll be taking some questions. Yeah. So I guess you all are very much convinced with me that we are living in techno age. So most things and immense information is just one click far from us. And everything is moving towards simplicity so fastly. Many new technologies are evolving each day. Either we have realized or not, but the truth is that we are so obsessed and surrounded with the technology. You can think of many examples like I have quoted here, like Alexa, Google devices. You just say something and it will pop up you the answer for you. They are like robots. You can give just them instructions and they will follow you. Like Bitcoin, blockchain technology, 3D printing. You can design your three-dimensional home or your office just in no time. So there are technologies are evolving everywhere in each and every dimension of the life. And similarly, the things have also been transforming in academia. And now chemists or biologists are also adopting these new evolving technologies and new approaches to smartly transform and facilitate their bench work. You can heard about these keywords like machine learning, databases, coding, docking, artificial intelligence, cheminformatics, computational biology. So these are new terms that are evolving. So we are integrating new technologies here, and we are transforming our research. And these are some recent examples that I have taken from the research articles. You can see research articles have been flooding with these kind of research. Like AI is transforming designing of novel biomaterials. Drug discovery is being smartly transformed by artificial intelligence. Revolution is coming up. And catalysis can also be designed by computational tools. There are many tools which can very easily, you can design a particular material for your research. And also like protein folding can also be predicted by these AI-based approaches. A lot of studies have been coming up on these materials, and a lot of funding has also been awarded to these research. You can see here, this is a snapshot from US Department of Energy that has given fund for this kind of research and machine learning and all. So there are many examples like that. Now, though all these developments looks highly sophisticated and complex, but it's fairly simple. Let me take you back to your school days. When we have started studying science, we all have been taught that science comprises 4 parts, which starts from observing some process, like very famous Isaac Newton's story, falling apple story, and discovery of law of gravitation. So here we experiment to check its. So first is the observation, and second is the experiment to check its redundancy, and then we conceptualize it and make a theory. So once we have a consolidated theory, we can predict some process, like for example, gravitational force and mass relation. So when you have one parameter, you can predict the another one. So when you have the consolidated theory, you can predict. So the idea is experiment can be better understood when you have a theoretical knowledge associated with it, right? So once you have established a theory, you can directly go for predictions, and your prediction will depend upon the accuracy of the theory. So whatever science we are sitting either one of this arm. So like if you are doing experimental science, you need support from theoretical science and using this computational science. So they work in hand. So for now, we have very much refined mathematical theories, and every day we have data coming up from different experimental observations. And it will not be an unrealistic thing if I will say that there will be a time when we will ask most of our scientific questions from our computers, and then a computational chemist or biologist or a robotic computer will simulate and give answer to you. So you can ask one day to your computer, hey computer, just suggest me a material which can withstand high temperature, or suggest me a catalyst for some reaction which can facilitate my reaction. Or like you can ask, like for this target, what will be the compound that will have the activity, or maybe like suggest me a material that can have a photovoltaic property at a specified condition, or you can predict the reaction feasibility. So there are many things you can do with the computational chemistry, which will be like smartly transforming the science. Yeah. So realizing the utility in chemistry, till now, two Nobel Prize in chemistry has been given to computational chemists. And you can see here the first Nobel Prize was given in 1998 for the development of density functional theory, which is an additional version of Schrodinger equation. And the second Nobel Prize was awarded in 2013 for the development of computational model to simulate the chemical reactions. Uh, so now, what is the computational science or computational chemistry? So computational chemistry is also called as molecular modeling. So it is kind of like you are using set of techniques for investigating chemical or biological problems on a computer rather than using real life experiments. So it actually involves the use of computers or algorithms to simulate some chemical or biological problem. So let's say for like 20 years before, we were using DNA fingerprinting and it was taking a lot of time. Now we have very much refined databases, tools, and algorithms which can give you the results in no time. And similarly, the things are also transforming in other domains of the science. I will give some examples to you. And the beauty of the computational chemistry or computational modeling is that you can very easily understand the things what are happening behind the scene. Like, for example, electrostatic potential that we have studied in our chemistry. Like, we know one side is positive potential, one side is negative potential, but we don't know. I mean, it's difficult to rationalize. But looking at the computational model, you can just optimize your molecule and you can easily see where the negative potential is and where the positive potential is, and how the molecule is orienting and how is the possibility of a chemical attack, like how the reaction will go. So it's fairly simple. And also, another example is hydrogen bonding, like the helical structure of DNA. So looking at the model, you can easily see how the triple bonding and double bonding arrangement leads to the helical nature of the DNA. And also like SARS-CoV-2, how the protein actually recognize the host cell. So how is the interplay is happening? So it is very easy to analyze. It is very easy to rationalize the things what are happening. So without the knowledge of computational chemistry or computational models, it's fairly difficult. So we can't even see the electron or proton and the atom or molecule. So with this computational model, you can easily understand the things and easily rationalize and easily go ahead with your further developments of the science or further understanding of the science. Like, for example, the reaction of methane and oxygen. So you can easily see like how the oxygen is interacting with methane and forming the carbon dioxide, and how is the two water molecules are giving up. So what actually the happening, what would be the reaction barrier, how the reaction is going. So these things are fairly simple, and computational models really help you in that. And also like molecular reactivity. So these are fairly simple. You can easily understand the science using these models. So the more data we have in the database, and the knowledge will be more clear, and more better model we can make to learn, and better predictions can be made. So it is actually, the more data you have, the better model you can make and better predictions you can make. So nowadays, like, a lot of data is coming up, so it's very easy to build a model and then to conceptualize the model and to predict something. So in this time, it is the time of computational chemistry, because we have a lot of data, so we can train our model and we can make the predictions. So having observational data may not be the case every time. So even if you don't have the background data, we can still make the predictions using state-of-art computational chemistry methods. So, and most of the computational chemistry methods are driven by these two approaches. One is molecular mechanics, and the second is quantum mechanics. So I guess we all have read these terms in our 12th class textbooks. So molecular mechanics methods are based on Newton's law of motion. So it is like Hooke's law. So from where we can calculate the total energy of the system. And the second is quantum mechanical approaches. So quantum mechanical approaches uses the electronic structure, like you have the electron, you have the protons, and then from the electronic structure, we can calculate the total energy of the system. So nowadays, density functional theory is also came. So we have another version of the quantum mechanics. So we have we have the uh, uh, we have the density in place of the wave function. So once we have the total energy of the system, you can calculate the another properties of your system. So all of the properties that are being calculated, they are somewhere driven by the classical or quantum mechanics. So these things are actually embedded in the software code. We don't need to bother about the mathematical descriptions. So we just need to understand these concepts. Once we know these things, we can use the computer and we can make the predictions. Now, these are the routine quantum computational chemistry investigations that we generally do, like molecular geometry optimization. So you can draw your molecule, you can calculate the geometry, and you can understand like where the bond length, what is the bond length, what is the angle and dihedrals. So once you have these things, you can calculate and you can understand your molecule when you have synthesized something new. And also you can calculate the energy of the molecule in transition states. So let's say the two molecules are interacting in some way. So you can understand the path in which they are going. And you can also understand the chemical reactivity. So once you have the structure, you can understand where the electrophilic site, where the nucleophilic site. And also, not only that, we can also calculate the thermodynamic properties. Let's say two molecules are binding. So what will be the free energy of binding? What maybe the other entropy and enthalpic changes are happening inside the reactions. And also we can also extend these things to the protein calculations, like docking and structure predictions can also be calculated, and also spectrochemical properties can also be easily calculated by these codes. So I will give an overview of each and every method that I explained here. So like you can calculate the molecular orbitals. Like this is carbon dioxide molecular orbital. Like once you optimize the molecule, you can do a calculation and you can have a molecular orbital diagram of your molecule. Let's say this is like how the HOMO of the molecule is. This is carbon dioxide. So this is the HOMO of carbon dioxide and LUMO. So once you have this knowledge, you can understand like what is the energy gap, when the reaction will be feasible, what will be the photochemical properties of this molecule. Like this, you can extrapolate these to your complex molecules and understand the photochemical properties of your system. And so these things can be easily done. And also like potential energy scan calculations also can be done. So it's kind of you rotate some molecule and you can calculate the energy. So for each dihedral or for each angle, you will be having some energy. So you can understand what can be the conformations this a particular molecule can have. So once you have the minimum energy, that may be the another possible conformation. So you can rotate the molecule and then you can calculate the energy. So this thing is not possible in like in lab, in experimental lab, but in computational chemistry, you can do these things. You can understand when is the molecule is more stable, what is the bond length which is more feasible, what is the dihedral, what is the torsion angle. So these things can easily be calculated. Not only that, we can also calculate the transition states. So during the course of the reaction, the structure of initial molecule changes to give the final structure or the product. So the transformation path lead to a hill where the highly unstable transition is formed. That is, we already know. So transition state is not a stable molecule and cannot be isolated from the reaction mixture. However, it can be located using these computational chemistry codes. So you can calculate the transition state. And not only state, you can calculate the reaction energy profile. So at what state, what is the energy, and which state the reaction is going. So what is the intermediate that is forming inside the reaction? That is very fairly simple in computational chemistry. So you can calculate, and you can easily design the catalyst for a particular transition state. So looking at this, you can design the catalyst also for your molecule. And also, so thermodynamic calculation also fairly simple. So this is the example of a ethyl radical abstracted hydrogen atom from molecular oxygen. So you can calculate the entropy, you can calculate the enthalpy, and then from there you can calculate the free energy also. So like that, here for this reaction, I have calculated the enthalpy and free energy. You can see it's positive, which means that is the endothermic process, which means the forward reaction is not feasible. So like that, for any of the reaction, you can calculate the feasibility. So if the feasibility is there, that reaction may go. If the feasibility is not there, that reaction may not go. So the feasibility of a chemical reaction can be easily calculated using these thermodynamic calculations. So binding energies also are very useful for let's say you are designing some molecule for that can bind to your for your protein. So that time the binding energy can be calculated by the thermodynamic calculations. So not only that, these calculations has also been extended to designing drug. So now when you think of like the chemical space is very big. So when you have 30 atoms, when you shuffle these 30 atoms, you can have 10 raised to the power 63 molecules. So just by shuffling 30 carbon atoms, you can have a combination. You can have a combination of this much, 10 raised to the power 63 possible combination can be made. And this is so huge. If you calculate the total number of stars, that is only 10 raised to the power 24. So as of now, the total chemical space, the total possibility of the molecule is 10 raised to the power 63, and it is so big. And in the databases like Merck database, you can see only 10 raised to the power 20 molecules. So it's still we are very far from the possible chemical space. And whatever the small molecules that are available is only 10 raised to the power 4. So you can think, or you can compare this 10 raised to the power 4 number with 10 raised to the power 63. So we are very far from the possible chemical space. So in the experimental lab, we can't go beyond 10 raised to the power 4. But in the computational chemistry, you can always go to this number, 10 raised to the power 63, and then you can screen your drug, you can screen your compound for the target, and you can come up with some drug molecule that can have activity. So with computational chemistry, you can go beyond the expectations, and you can design a molecule, and you can come up with some good chemical compounds. And so computational drug design is leading in computational chemistry. So, and a lot of focus is also coming up onto these drug designing aspects. And during the COVID time, this field, people have realized the potential of this field. So in here, a lot of development are being coming up. Like COV2 drug has been designed. Baricitinib, one drug was designed by the computational chemistry for the anti-COVID development, for the anti-COVID. Yeah. Okay, and so realizing these potential, even US administration has also shown interest in incorporating more data to improvise computational model via appropriate policies. So US is giving funds also to sponsor these research. So when you think about the toolkit of computational chemistry, so these are the basic tools that we generally use. So for a designing of the small molecule or for the designing of a drug, you can start a project. using the drug using the chemical compounds taken from the small molecule database. So you can take the compounds, you can do some kind of docking, you can do pharmacophore, you can take pharmacophore approach, you can take docking approach, and you can dock your drug, and you can have some hits, and then you can optimize those lead compounds, and then you can refine those compounds. Not only that, you can also start your project using the protein approach also. So you can have the drug, you can have the ligand, you can dock them, you can have some hits, and then you can optimize those compounds. And these are the databases that are available. So you can use this databases these are freewares. You can dock the compounds using these databases, and then you can predict the active site, and then you can also do some kind of ADMET predictions. So these are freeware databases that are available. So everybody can use these informations, and everybody can do these. Molecular docking is the main technique that we generally use for the designing of the drug. So it is actually docking ligand receptor. So we can take the receptor structure from the PDB database, and then we can take the ligand, and using the software, you can dock this ligand into the receptor. And then if it is binding well, we can say that this ligand can have activity against this receptor. So if the score is good, then the compound can have a better affinity. So actually, molecular docking is based on this lock and key model, which we read in enzyme substrate studies in our notebooks. So when the substrate is fitting well to the enzyme, it fits there. If it is fitting well, that means it will be having activity against this enzyme. And sometimes there's an induced fit binding. So that also, like, we have different docking models for this one and this one. So based on the receptor nature, we can use that approach, and then we can design the compounds against the protein target. And also, molecular dynamics is also a very popular technique. So here, actually, you can simulate the properties of your compounds or complex with time. So with time, how the things are happening. So like this is the video of a bilayer formation. So you just simply add phospholipids in and your solvent, and then you simulate it using molecular dynamic simulations. And then with time, you can see how the bilayer is forming. So these phenomena with time can easily be simulated by molecular dynamic simulations. Like, for example, here, you can see how the COV2 spike protein is being recognized at the host cell surface. So actually, the application looks fairly simple. So it is actually using this Newton's second law of motion. So where you can calculate the force using the mass and velocity. So once you have the mass and velocity, initial velocity, you can calculate the trajectory of the particle. So with time, where the particle will go. So with that, so you can calculate. So like, for example, protein ligand binding. So with time, the ligand will stable, ligand will bind, or ligand where the ligand will go. So with the molecular dynamic simulation, you can easily calculate the trajectories. And this is the beauty of the computational methods. So as far as my research is concerned, so I worked in different domains of the computational chemistry. So I worked in supramolecular chemistry also. So where I worked on calyx rings. So the ground state properties, how the molecule is binding to another analyte molecule, what would be the binding, what will be the reaction mechanism. So these calculations I did before. So protein peptide interactions also I did. So how you can design your peptide molecule, and also how they are aggregate, and how they flux pump. So different domains of the science I worked on as far as the computational chemistry is concerned. So I will give some examples from my research. So this is one of the project where we designed the peptide for one target. So in order to inhibit some protein target, you can design a small molecule. So not only small molecules, sometimes you can design peptide also. So that peptide will bind your protein and it will inhibit that protein. So it's kind of like one-to-one interaction. So in this project, where we have been asked to design a peptide that can inhibit this interaction, sulfur and this complex. So there's one complex. So once you have a peptide here, it will disrupt this complex. So the idea was to design a peptide that can inhibit this complex. So earlier we were having one peptide, which is a very big peptide. So we want a shorter peptide. So I use these computational tools to design this peptide. I will tell you how I have designed a peptide. So yeah, so this work was done in collaborations with National University of Singapore, and I was in NCBS. So that time we did that. So this is a protein. This is a protein interaction interface. So this is a peptide which is red color, and this is a protein target which is blue in color. So you can see a very strong interactions this peptide makes. So we want to chop this peptide to make this peptide short. And that peptide should be interacting with this protein with a similar affinity. And once we have a shorter peptide, we can disrupt that peptide to design some small molecules against this protein. So before designing a peptide, we want to understand how this original peptide is interacting and what are the interactions that we can trim, we can remove, we can discard. So I used various tools. I use molecular dynamic simulations to understand the residue level interactions. So from this, we understand that there are very strong contacts that has been made by these position 3 to 8. So we cannot trim these residues. Either we can trim these other residues. We used different approaches: GPSA calculations, which is a free energy calculation method, and Foldex, which is another method, and ICM is another method. So there are 3 different approaches we used to design and to understand how this peptide interacts, and then we can make another combinations. So once we have the peptides, we did integration, we did the stability studies by molecular dynamic simulations, and then we tested experimentally those peptides using ITC. Okay, so this is the peptide. So you can see here the initial, so you can see the full peptide is having the binding energy of 157. So when we are reducing the number of residues, the binding is getting reduced. So we wanted to have a 4 or 5 mer peptide which can have the affinity of this much, 157. So we tried many combinations of the amino acid substitutions. So let's say here we substituted this serine to isoleucine. So this is a change. So for each amino acid, we substituted another amino acid, and we wanted to know which combination is more feasible. So you can see here, I have substituted this residue with another residue, and this is a change. So if the change is minus, which means that the another residue is having more interactions as compared to the previous ones. So as a result of a lot of substitutions and free energy calculations, we finalize these combinations like this 5 mer combinations. So these combinations can have a better affinity as compared to the original ones. So not only that, we did molecular dynamic simulations, how the residue is actually binding with the protein. You can see here, this residue is making a stronger contact. So when you have a phenylalanine here, it is binding more strongly. So this has been tested by molecular dynamics simulation. With time, the residue is getting stabler and stabler, and it is making very stable contacts, which means if you substitute one residue with the phenylalanine, which is this one here, it will be having more stronger interaction. So like that, with other positions also, we substituted them, and then we came up with different possibilities, and then we designed different combinations. So these peptides were further designed experimentally, and then we tested them in-house experiments, and then we found that these peptides are binding equally well as compared to the original big ones. So which means our computational approach worked here, and then now we have these good peptides, and now we are working with these peptides in our lab. So now another project is one of the protein docking project. So where we wanted to come up with model, we have some data that one protein binds with another protein, but we don't know how they bind, in what orientation, in what geometry they bind. And also we were not having any structure, we just have the sequence. So these are the sequences that we have, but we don't have the structure. So we have some structure in databases. As you can see here, 73% of the structure we have, but we don't have the full structure. So we make our models. We make our models to come up with the structure of this NEF protein, which is a HIV virus protein, which plays important role in human infection. So we don't have the structure here, and we came up with this model. So there are 3 different models we came up. So actually, we were not having a consensus model here. So we were having different possibilities. So we came up with each and every possibility, and then we make a model. So these are the models that we make. And for the another peptide also that interacts with this protein, for that also we were not having any structure. We make model also for that. And then there are databases, there are web servers available. You just need to feed your residue there, and then that web server will calculate the structure for you. So now we have the models for protein, we have the model for peptide, and we have some experimental data also in our lab that this protein and peptide, when they bind, these are the residues that perturb. So we know that somewhere when this binding is happening, these are the residue level interactions. So we have some knowledge about the residues also. So we map those residues, and then we dock our peptide on these active sites. So we have the data, and then we are using that data to come up with the model. And then this is the model that we came up. So now we make this model, and now understanding this model, we are now designing some molecules also for these interactions. So like that, in case if you don't have any structural information, you have databases available. You just take the sequences from there, make the protein structure, make the peptide structure, dock them, and then you will have a model. And that model you can verify using your experimental structures. That is one kind of proof of concept using these data. So this is another project, which is a chemistry project. So here we worked on fullerene molecule and pyridine butyric acid. So in the lab, we know that when we add fullerene onto pyridine butyric acid, it will make a dyadic structure, and the dyadic structure is a supramolecular aggregate, and that aggregate is having photoluminescence properties, or it was having this luminescent property. So we were not having any idea how this is happening and what are the molecular arrangement that leads to this kind of aggregate behavior. So we did calculations using computational chemistry codes, And then from there, we know that this pyrene, butyric acid, and fullerene make this hydrogen bonding as well as pi bonding. Hydrogen bonding, induced pi bonding was observed here. So hydrogen bonding, you can see here. So we have different substituted pyrene, butyric acid. So here you can see hydrogen bonding also there, and then pi bond is also there. So this hydrogen bond versus pi bond interaction is making very stable dyadic complex. And then this dyadic complex further make aggregates, supramolecular aggregates, and that will lead to this fractal behavior. So you can see here the binding energy was fairly high. So when you don't have this hydrogen bonding here, the pi distance was 3.09. And then when you have this hydrogen bonding here, pi distance reduces to 3.07 angstrom. And also you can see here the energy is 13.62 only. But when you have this hydrogen bonding induced pi complex, the energy reduces to 37. So almost fourfold increase in the energy was there. So this was happening. So we also did experimental spectrochemical characterization also for this complex. And then in the UV and inflorescence calculation, we found that there is a charge transfer band which appears around 500 angstrom, 470 to 480 angstrom. 460 to 480 nanometer. So when we decouple this charge transfer band, we found that it is having actually two bands, which is one at 471 and one as at 480 nanometer. So we were not having any idea from where this charge transfer band is appearing. So we did calculations, and then we found this band is actually coming up from hydrogen bond and pi bond transitions. So this one band was appearing from, so that the electron density was shifting from this hydrogen bond side to the accepted fullerene. So this is one band here, and the another band was appearing from this pi transition. So from the pyrene, the electron density was getting shifted to the fullerene. So these are the two bands that were there. So actually, this charge transfer property or this photofluorescent property was actually originating from this pi versus hydrogen bonding interactions. So this is the pi versus hydrogen bonding interaction is making very stable complex, and that is how we shown using these calculations. And then we also calculated how the aggregate is forming. So we did molecular dynamic calculations, and then we try to understand like how the molecules are packing to make this fractal. So it is actually three molecules which were aggregating and that were leading to this fractal behavior. So so they were around 7 angstrom. And at the molecular level, we see the interactions. The interactions were actually cation pi and salt bridge interactions. So these are the interactions that actually lead to this supramolecular aggregate. Yeah. So this is a summary. So I tried to give an overview of the molecular modeling and computational chemistry calculations, what you can do with these computational chemistry codes. And some examples I have coded from how you can design peptide for your protein, and how you can dock your molecule and have some peptide for your protein target, and also how the fullerene and pyrene butyric acid are making an aggregate. Example I have shown here in my slides. And I hope I would be able to give you some understanding of the molecular modeling that will help you to make some informed decision, maybe for a student for the dissertation or your career options. And these are the pupils involved with me, with whom I have worked. So these are the people here, and these are the collaborators with whom I worked. I'm also thankful to Cure Bhai. With Cure Bhai, we worked on different projects on supramolecules, especially calixarenes. So thank you, Cure Bhai, also. Your name is not there. I am sorry for that. So thanks. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Athar.
Yeah. If you have any questions, maybe students, they have some doubts, they can ask what tools, how can they start the project and all. If they have any questions, they can ask. I will try to answer them.
Jameen?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We start question.
Yes, students, please, if you have any query, you can now raise your hands and ask questions.
Many participants ask for email ID and contact number of Dr. Athar. Maybe for collaboration.
Yes.
I think they might be, maybe they can type their questions if they have.
Yes, Sushil. You have been allowed to talk. You can ask your question, or you can write down in chat box also. Yes, Sachin Kumar.
Okay, physical chemistry reference book is yours. So Atkin, I generally recommend. Atkin. I think it's a good book. I have one of my copy with me, so I will recommend that. So maybe if somebody wants to begin with some computational chemistry project, so there are many good YouTube videos available. They can see that. Even sometime I mean on my ResearchGate I uploaded presentations also. They can check that, or if they have any doubts, they can refer one of the good book from Scoop. Yeah. So how can we start learning computational chemistry on your own? Yeah, good question. So as far as my experience is concerned, so I will recommend to download some software package on your laptop. Try to do some calculations using that software package. So when you will be doing something, you will always be having some doubt. Oh, what this is happening with this, what this calculation will do. So those kind of things, I mean, you just download a package, you just try to explore that package, and then side by side, you will be having like experience, you will be having that some motivation. Okay, why this is happening, what this is happening. So this is a good way to start with. Maybe you can check the tutorial. So once you will do something, you will be having that bad, you will not be having that barrier. I mean, slowly you will be like improving how the calculation you can do, what more you can do, which calculation, which molecule. I mean, these, just download one package and try to explore that. That will one good way to start with some computational chemistry learning, I guess. So there are like Gaussian package. I mean, that is not free, but like Argus Lab is one package which is free. You just download Argus package and just build your molecule. And in Marvin Sketch also you can do some calculation. So Marvin is free package. So you can draw your molecule, optimize those molecule, do some spectrochemical calculations, and also like whatever you have learned in computational chemistry textbooks, you can try to match like spectrochemical parameters like IR band, NMR band. So this is one good way to start. Which organic chemistry? I think Dr. Cure will be able to answer those things, I guess. Can we do research on this all?
There is another question on Ranjita Singh also.
Yeah. Any software that will help in energy storage device calculation like supercapacitors. Okay. Okay. Very sophisticated question. So yeah, there are many tools available as of now. So if you want to do like capacitor kind of calculations, you need to do the energy calculations. Like you need to understand the energy gap, the energy states of your material. So you need to optimize the molecule, and then whatever the properties that are responsible, like for the energy storage capacity, there would be some properties that material should have. So you need to understand what are the properties that a supercapacitor is required to have. So those things you can calculate using electronic structure packages, like Gaussian packages there. So you need to understand your material actually. Once you have a qualitative and quantitative understanding of your material, then you can calculate some of the property that actually lead to a good supercapacitor. So you need to dig some literature, and you need to understand what are the materials from where you can start with, and then you can start doing some kind of property calculations. So you need to understand what things, what properties you need to have, that supercapacitor need to have. So what coding language is important in computational chemistry? Yeah. So for the beginner, coding is not required, I think. But if you want to do like real kind of like mathematical foundation or mathematical calculations, if you want to come up with some modified code, then you need to have some coding language also. But so what I recommend, the main language is Python, which most of the program is using. So Python, you should have some understanding of the language. So even if you don't have that knowledge, still that is okay, because there are very good packages available. You just need to understand the concepts of the physical chemistry, like quantum chemistry, and then basis sets, DFT, those things you need to understand. If you have that knowledge, you are good to go with. But yeah, if you want to really understand how the package is working, how can you modify some code? Yeah, for that, Python is the one language that I generally recommend. And also there are other packages that are built with R or and C also, but mainly Python is the one that people recommend. Yeah. Can AI help in computational chemistry? Yes, of course. So AI is the one that actually, I mean, most of the inspiration and most of the like developments are coming up is because of the inspiration came up from the AI. So in artificial intelligence, you can actually automatize your research. So it's kind of like you need to do like 10 steps. You just make a pipeline, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then you make some filtering criteria. Okay, I need this, then I will go. So let's say you are starting with 100 molecules. You are screening 100 molecules for some catalytic application. So at first level filter, there will be first level filter. Okay, so second energy filter would be, I want those molecules which are stable at this temperature. So third filter will be like this. So you can automatize this setup using AI, artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence, like you are feeding data to your computer. Okay, I want this. You just give me this. I don't want like intermediate steps. So yeah, of course, AI is really boosting the developments. Any software that can we calculate the stability of composite materials and thin layer? Yes. Yeah, this is a little complicated, but yes, you can do that. Composite material. So you need to understand, actually, yeah, when we are doing anything in computation chemistry. Yeah. So to the Ravi Rajan Pandey question, so actually in computational chemistry, if you are doing anything, you need to understand the integrity, the qualitative and quantitative idea of your system, because you are not doing any kind of like mixture calculation here. You need to understand your 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 system very well. So what is the actual composition of the system? Once you have the actual composition, like for the composite material, you should be having the idea of stoichiometry. So what is the actual stoichiometry? What are the conditions? What are the solvent? So if you have that knowledge, so there are mathematical tools that are there you can use, and then you can calculate. And also I have also been involved in this thin layer adsorption studies. So yeah, these can be done. How to choose research topic for PhD? I have done my MSc dissertation in molecular docking for cancer using Argus lab. Okay. So
to faculty member, participant, please note, ask the common questions.
Why is most universities and institutions no computational chemistry is in BSc chemistry? Yeah, actually computational chemistry is not a full course. So it is actually the side arm of the chemistry. So it's a like extension of physical chemistry, I would say. So whatever the mathematical formulations that we studied in physical chemistry, we are actually implementing those formulas, those calculations using the computer. Like for the Schrodinger equation, for example, in order to calculate the total energy of the hydrogen atom, I mean, you need to do a lot of calculations. For example, just do that Schrodinger equation total energy calculation for your for like carbon dioxide. It is very difficult. There are a lot of approximations. There are a lot of I mean, you cannot do very easily those things. So you need computer help, and there the computers are that will calculate the energy of your system. I mean, you can calculate for very complex molecule, you can calculate the properties. So there the things are. So it is the extension of the physical chemistry as actually, and also of course the computational science also. Can I join your team, MSc Organic Chemistry? Okay. When I will be moving to India, then I would be happy to do that. Net chemistry after reference book is yours. I think faculties of the Ganpat University would be able to answer that question. Yeah.
Send the details.
What to do after BSc chemistry honors to pursue research in chemistry field? Okay. So I think dissertation is the good way to start with. You just try to explore what are the basic things that are there in computational chemistry and start some project like docking, let's say optimizing your molecule. Let's say some molecule in some lab, some photoluminescent property or for some specific property, you have synthesized a molecule. So try to see how the molecular basis of that property, try to optimize the molecule, try to do some property calculation, and there's one good way to start with. So everything needs some motivation. So once you have a motivation, then you will be things would be easy for you to start. Is computational chemistry is applicable only to? No, not that. Computational chemistry is not only limited to medicinal implications. Of course, computational chemistry is, where is the chemistry is, you can utilize those things. Like in protein ligand docking, there's chemistry is happening. So we are using that thing in this aspect. But not only that, like for catalysis designing, let's say for some other material design. So we want to facilitate our reaction by having some other substituents. So we want to design some other reactant that will facilitate the reaction. So those kind of things also can be done fairly easily, like adsorption calculations, like CO2 adsorption on some molecule, some surface. What is the nature of that surface? When that reaction would be more feasible? There are a lot of things that can be done, not only biological side. Any free retrosynthesis software through which I can go pathway for the synthesis of any target molecule into its starting material. Okay. So you need to understand. So it's kind of like, so forward direction reaction, how the reaction is happening, if it is feasible or not feasible, what is the binding in what is the energy barrier, what is the transition state which is in between. So once you have this knowledge, always you can backward direction also, you can calculate the energy, and also not only that, you can split your molecule, and then you can understand like when the reaction is feasible, when the reaction is not feasible, and what are the molecular reactivity that is happening. Let's say some nucleophilic attack is happening, and then that reaction is going in a forward direction. So what is the substituent where the reaction is happening, and when the reaction is happening? So those kind of like molecular level details you can understand, and then based on that you can design retrosynthesis or your product or the reactant accordingly. How can good command, Dr. Kuber? What is the future of yeah, of course, I make one slide for that. Yeah, future is very bright, because see, whatever synthesis can be done, lot of synthesis, lot of molecules, we have lot of things in the databases. I mean, we have mathematical equations, we have lot of molecules. I mean, synthetic chemist has designed lots of molecules, so we have lot of data already, we have lot of understanding, we have lot of databases. Now we want to understand that data, and we want to make that rationalized kind of approaches so that we can go ahead. So it's kind of using that data and then come up with some predictions and design something. So if you want to predict something, you need to have the data. So once you have the data, you can make good predictions, and then you can do kind of like targeted research. So in order to do this targeted research, computational chemistry is at the forefront. Can you give guidance about PhD after MSc organic chemistry? I think faculty would be able to do that. What are the procedure to join PhD? Yes. Oh my God. I'm not an assistant professor as of now, but I can help you out. Maybe like if you have any problem in your research, I would be happy to help you. You can contact to Cure Bhai, so we can assess that.
I think, can I? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we have a computational facility we are trying to build up in Ganpat University, and we are basically trying to get like a Gaussian program, something like that, so that we can actually do a lot of computational in future actually.
Yeah, I think it like if since the students are very much interested in that, so I think it would be good to organize some tutorial, or because just showing the slides what is happening, they are at the superficial level. So if they have the actual understanding, like how the molecule is looking, and then what they are calculating, and how it is actually matching with the experiments, and what predictions they can make, how they can rationalize their chemistry, whatever they know.
Yeah, actually, usually whatever development we do over here, and we run one workshop on that. So we have future plan, all that.
Okay.
So if that work out something, we are definitely going to have this kind of, maybe you can have a talk also, you can arrange your talk in that. So I would actually, I have a brief question.
Sure.
Basically, you use the molecular dynamic simulation as well as molecular docking. So I wanted to know what kind of platform you are using for this computational work. Any software you are using, or so that may be useful for the student, those are new learners. So they will so what are the softwares or computational resource you need in order to do this kind of activity? Can you briefly describe?
Sure. So there are two kinds of like, if I will divide the softwares that are there. So one is like freeware that are free, everybody can download and use. You don't need any permission. And second is paid ones. So for the beginner level, I would say we should go with the freewares that are there. So for the docking, we have Autodock, which is free, and I mean, a lot of like support is also available.
Yeah.
So you can do like it if you want to do some kind of protein docking work, you can do docking with Autodock. Or let's say if you want to do some kind of like property analysis of your chemical molecules.
Yes.
So the good start is Marvin Sketch. So in the Marvin Sketch, you can build your molecule, optimize your molecule, and then you can calculate the IR spectra, like the partial charges where the reaction will, like what are the sites where the reactant can attack, and electrostatic potential also you can calculate. And these are like very basic things. And if you want to do something more, always Gaussian is the best program, I would say.
Yes.
And it's very, very easy and simple.
That's what we are trying to actually get the Gaussian program also.
Yeah.
And we have actually already cluster system in our university. So either we can find by our workstation, and we can have a cluster system, we can put it on there. So how expensive is it in terms of time limit? If you give some idea, these many atoms of system and this much time.
So actually, so in the computational chemistry now, we have different approaches. So based on the sophistication, like based on the accuracy versus time versus like the setup, the machine we have, we can choose some methodology. Let's say molecular mechanics is one methodology, Hartree-Fock, and density functional theory. So the more accurate you want to do, the more time you need, and the better machine you need. So it's kind of like trade-off between the accuracy versus time scale.
So kind of semi-empirical or empirically, or then depending on that AB initio method if you're going. So definitely.
So let's say if you have a small system, like let's say 50 atoms or 40 atoms, then you can do like at a reasonable good level, you can do calculations if you have small system like 50 atoms. But if you have a kind of like supramolecule having like 200 atoms, it is difficult. And moreover, if you want to do electronic structure calculation, more than 200 level atom it's not like very reliable, because like you are using a lot of approximations. So I mean, if you're having more number of atoms, there will be more approximations, and the accuracy will also not be very high. So so again, we have different computational methods. So it is like depend on the system size, depend on the accuracy, you need to opt a particular method. So
sure. Okay, it's wonderful. Actually,
on the project,
I just in between, I just went out. But initially, the beginning talk was very wonderful. Can you share some of the slides, the beginning one? Some student maybe will be useful. A very beginning one, where you just introducing the things, what are the things, a lot of things can be done. And those things for the student point of view, they wanted to know. So just share with Q-Set and few slides, first few slides, before starting your example one. Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for giving me an opportunity.
Thank you very much, Dr. Athar. It was nice introduction. Hope you enjoy our interaction with student and faculty members.
Thank you. I was at home, so it was a little difficult for me, but it's okay. Thank you. Thank
you for spending your time.
Thank you. Bye.
Yes, Dr. Athar? Yes, please accept our memento.
Oh, okay.
Please share you on email ID.
Sure, bhai.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And
participant, please go through the feedback link and attendance link and complete it within the 5 to 7 minutes. Link will be open for this 5 to 7 minutes. And tomorrow we have session of Dr. Brijesh Pare. He's a senior professor and president of Association of Chemistry Teachers. The topic is very common and very scientific. They discuss about the scientific discoveries. So please join at sharp 9:50. We'll allow you for the webinar, and please attend all the lectures in the end of the session or end of the lecture. We count the attendance and accordingly we provide you the certificates. For your attendance for all 3 days is compulsory with the feedback. And after the complete of the seminar, we'll share you this e-certificate, new email ID. Thank you.